Now let us call Father Rene to introduce our guest for today.
Hello, good day. Magandang umaga, magandang araw sa lahat. Thank you, Andrew, for giving me this opportunity to introduce our speaker for this session on the dignity of the human person. So our guest for today is a friend of mine, and also we worked together when I was in Italy. So his name is Markus Krienke. His origin is from Germany. He's been working for many years as a professor in the Department of Theology in the University of Lugano in Switzerland. That's the Italian side. That's why he can speak a very fluent Italian. And he studied also in United States. That's why he can share with us in English. And he was teaching also in Rome. So he is very much engaged in the promotion of the Catholic social teaching, and he's very much actually in the launching of the Festival of Catholic Social Teaching in the Philippines. He came in Mary Hill School of Theology, and he's supposed to come also last April 2020 in St. Louis University, but unfortunately with the COVID-19, everything was canceled, and hopefully in the following year or next year, he will be able to come with us. So without much ado, I would like to present to you our speaker for this afternoon, Professor Markus Krienke. Welcome, Markus, with us.
Thank you so much, Don Rene. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all. And yes, you see a little bit this background because I am not in my office, I'm not in my home. I'm in Sardinia this weekend to have a little vacation for 2 or 3 days. But when Don Rene called me and he said, save me because we have a need for a guest speaker, I cannot say no to Don Rene, and this is why I'm here now. And yes, it's a great pleasure, and I was supposed to come this year to the Philippines like last year, and it was a great time last year at your festival. Yes, I will hope, and I hope that there will be some occasion to repeat the festival after the COVID crisis, so we can also meet personally. One of you I met already last year, and it's and I'm very happy to be here with you. I have very less time to introduce in a very complicated theme. But this is also this is also a thing you have to accept if you are a friend of Don Rene, to accept complicated themes to treat in very less time. So dignity, life and dignity of human being. I thought that I don't want to give you a normal talk, let's say, to treat some normal topics maybe you expect when you hear this theme inside of the reflection of Catholic social teaching, but I thought to present you 2 frontiers of new reflection on that theme, 2 new frontiers where we discuss human dignity on a very global level, because we have 2 new challenges which weren't seen until some years ago, and they are emerging now, and they are real challenges for our understanding of what is human dignity. The first challenge is the environment crisis, the environment challenge to us, and it has become now really urgent with the coronavirus, because the coronavirus is a crisis which emerged of a wrong relationship between human being and environment, animals, but also the whole environment where we are living in. Human being, the humanity did not realize a new concept of this relationship in the last decades. And with that spillover, a virus which has been developed in the environment, came to human being and caused a really global crisis. And yeah, I'm so thankful to you for this gospel on Bartimaeus and on your comments on that, which treated very, very many topics of human dignity. And many of you wrote, yeah, human dignity, Bartimaeus is in those who suffered for COVID crisis because they were infected of the virus, because they lost work, and so on. Why is environment a theme for human dignity? Because we have duties to environment, and as you know, and I will quote it later, there are no rights without duties, and we are used to decline this, to think about these duties in our relationship to the other. Yeah, I want rights from the other, and I have to give you duties. Now, the new thing is that we have to also to respect our duties to environment, in order to respect human life. This is a theme already treated in the encyclical Laudato Si of Pope Francis 5 years ago. And now in this crisis, we really get aware how this encyclical was prophetical. How is it actual? How it described already 5 years ago a theme, a topic which has become virulent and which has become really actual in 2020. We declined, we thought of human dignity in modern times, and the modern understanding of human dignity is the basis of the declarations, of the human declarations of human rights, 1948, 1966, the various charters of human rights in all of the world, yeah, beginning with the December 10th of 1948. And the focus was an idea of human being, which is, as Aristotle formulated, anima rationale. Yeah. Also with Kant, yeah, Kant said we are rational beings, and as we are dotated with rationality, yeah, we have rights. Now, the actual crisis, let us get aware that we are human beings in our flesh. We are human beings in our limitedness. We are human beings in our concreteness, yes, in our connection to ambiental, to environment, to concreteness, yeah, to bodily concreteness. And if we don't include, yeah, this dimension in the formulation of human rights, the human rights are not complete. Human rights remain abstract formulations, which give to many human beings to the big enterprises, yeah, to the big powers of the world, yeah, the possibility in its biological constitution, yeah, life in biological constitution, which is also the human constitution itself. It's very interesting that Kant, in his metaphysics, metaphysical of morals, yeah, in his moral foundation of moral work, said that, yeah, we have duty, we have not duties because we have duties only to human beings, but how do we have to treat animals? And Kant said we have to treat animals in a good way. Not because this does infect the theme of human rights, but if we don't treat animals in a good way, yeah, in an empathic way, on the long run, we will become violent also to human beings. If we don't treat animals in an empathical way, on the long run, we will disrespect also human rights. This is very interesting because Kant does not know duties to animals or to environment. He knows also only duties towards other people. But he said, yeah, this relationship to environment, to animals, yeah, this is a dimension which we cannot abstract, of our constitution and of our thought of human dignity. Yeah, this is in a certain way the first point I wanted to stress, to underline. And you know, many people say that it is due to Christianity that we disrespect the world, that we disrespect animals. Why? Because in the book of Genesis, God tells the human being to rule the world, yeah, to be the owner of the world. Yeah. But you have to read this topic of Genesis in the context. Yeah, in the ancient times, yeah, human being did not have the techniques. We did not have the possibilities to in a certain way, yeah, to cancel, yeah, and to disrespect in a so worse way animals and environment. And so in the Genesis, it was a prophetical view from God, yeah, that human being has the very most dignity of all the creations, but therefore he has also a responsibility, yeah. So we cannot quote the Genesis, yeah, for accusing Christianity to give us in a certain way. To give us in a certain way the premise to disrespect environment. And did you know that the Bible is the holy book of all religions of the world, which mentions animal more times, yeah, than all the other holy books of the world, yeah, 3,700 times, yeah. It quotes 120 species, diverse species. And when God says that on the Shabbat, yeah, on the Sunday, we do not have to work, but we can save lives, and this is expression of the dignity of human being. God says not only lives, but also the animals. And the alliance of God with Noah after the great water, there was included also the animals who was on the arch with Noah. So from Christianity, from the Bible, from our tradition, yeah, comes a real good input to think dignity of life, yeah, inside of a whole horizon, yeah, which includes all life. This is the first topic. What is the second topic? The second topic is artificial intelligence, big data, yeah. You know that this is a real topic in the last years. We didn't get away of it in the 90s, into 2000s, in the 2010s, yeah. But in the last year, we got away that artificial intelligence is going to rule over the world in a very, very determined way. You know, the big nations like United States, like China, like Russia, they invest very, very much money into the development of technologies of artificial intelligence. Yeah, in 10 years, there will be 150 billions of disposals connected in the world. It is the Internet of Things, yeah, and we will produce so many data, yeah. Do you imagine that in only 1 year we produce the same amount of data which the whole humanity produced from its beginning until this year? So in 2020, we produced the same quantity of data which the whole humanity produced from the beginning until 2020. And when there will be connected 150 billions of devices in 10 years, the time of doubling of information and of data will be 12 hours. We produce data in continuation. And you know that internet is developing. You know that we produce data even if we don't have a smartphone. Even someone who says, I don't want to be connected in the world, he produces data because devices are installed overall, yeah. They measure our faces, they measure our emotions, they measure our expressions, yeah. And they let us, they send to us publicity, they send to us. We are registered in all of it. And this will be on the long run also a challenge for human dignity, because they will substitute our work, they will substitute our relationship, they will come into our relationship. Relationship of human beings in the future will be together with artificial intelligence, little robots, artificial and technology organization of our lives, and for that it will be a great topic. Artificial intelligence can do surgeries. They do selection, the selection of job interviews, for example. They write articles. They write Twitter. Yeah, from 5 to 10% of all Twitter accounts are not human accounts, are accounts of artificial intelligence. Yeah, which send messages and which influence to political elections. Yeah, you know that. Yeah, which influence to our way of thinking. Yeah, we are in great internet bubbles. Yeah, where we receive only the information that we want to receive on the basis of our clicks that we did before. Yeah, you know that. And this does not permit us anymore to encounter really the other, yeah, to confront us with the other, to realize our human dignity in this way, yeah. And human dignity in the future will be declined also through the possibility to have access to these informations, yeah, to have access to this data, yeah, to have the possibility to connect yourself. So you see, you know, that these two topics, yeah, will be really topics of life and human dignity in the future. What is life? What is human dignity in the future towards environment and animals and towards artificial intelligence? This will be the two grand big topics. And as I will show you now in the second part of my reflections, these are already topics of new reflection on human rights, because human rights were not only defined in 1948, in 1966. Yeah, it is going on. Yeah, we have a proliferation of human rights. We have new elaborations of new human rights. Yeah, and humanity is already going in that direction. And Christians should give their contribution to that reflection. Christians should be present. Yeah, should be there where we formulate new human rights, where we think about new charters, where we reflect about the future of humanity in the world. Yeah. So these are the very two new reflections, and it was quite interesting. Like 15 years ago, there was a great discussion between Jürgen Habermas, which is one of the greatest philosophers of rights and democracy in the world. Now he is over 90 years. And Ratzinger, who was not Pope already, he was already Cardinal, and they reflected on religion and democracy. Now let's say, and Habermas, who always said that democracy is ruling itself in an autonomous way. It does not have a need of religious or values which are pre-political. Yeah. He said, yeah, but on the long run, democracy and the abstract reflection on rights, yeah, become in a certain way, still arid, a very dry thing, yeah, a very abstract reflection, and why? And he said because the notion of human dignity, which is at the center of right, yeah, has always need to be alimented. It has need to be sustained by people. And who sustains the reflection of human dignity? Yeah, not the abstract charters, the formulations, yeah, the great meetings of politicians in the world. Yeah, also that. But the concrete people have to reflect on what is human dignity in the concrete situations. And this list, yeah, you wrote before, who is Bartimaeus today? Yeah, it was such a great reflection because it concretized, it gave concretization to the question: what is human dignity in concrete, yeah, in reality? And therefore, Habermas, yeah, said against. To all the things he said in 40 years before, yeah, to this concretization of human rights, religion gives a real important contribution. Yeah. And Ratzinger, of course, he was on the one hand, he agreed very much with Habermas. On the other hand, but he said, but it is not enough, yeah, to translate what is a religious understanding of sacredness of life, of sacredness of human being in a rational codex, in a rational language, in the language of rights, in the language of politics, in the language of democracy. Yeah, But religions have to be, they said Ratzinger, no? Religions have to be vital, they have to be alive, yeah? They have to live their religiosity. It is not the abstract traduction, yeah, of sacredness of life in an abstract concept of human dignity. It is the real life of religious communities, of religious realities, yeah, which living concretely their religion, living concretely their relationship to Jesus Christ, to God, yeah, which shows us what is human dignity, yeah, not the abstract and the rational traduction of sacredness of life in a language of rights, in a language of politics, in a language of democracy, yeah, but the concrete living of human dignity in a religious way, yeah, in the religious ceremonies, in the religious traditions, in the religious realities. No, this is the situation where we see what is human dignity. This was the precisation of Ratzinger in correspondence to Habermas, and with this concretization of Habermas of Ratzinger, you know, answering to Habermas, Ratzinger did nothing else than in a certain way explaining what the tradition of social doctrine says since its beginnings. And in the tradition of social doctrine, there was precisely one encyclical which was very important for human rights, and you know this. It was the Pacem in Terris of John the 23rd. Yeah, Pacem in Terris of John the 23rd, 1963. Who formulated a list of human rights. This is very interesting. Yeah, we don't only have the list of Virginia 1776. We don't only have the list of France 1789. We don't only have the list of the United Nations 1948. Yeah, we have also the list of the tradition of social doctrine of the Church. Yeah, Pacem in Terris 1963, and in the beginning of this encyclical, the Pacem in Terris affirmed a list of rights, and this list of rights, it's very interesting to analyze. We don't have the time to do it now, but comparing it, yeah, with the political declarations of human rights, yeah, we can see correspondences, but we can see also differences. What is the list of Pacem in Terris? I have here a little presentation PowerPoint, which I can send you afterwards. So you have then the list to read it also if you want. Now I read it to you, and so you can hear it. The first is the right to existence and the decent standing of living. Yeah, rights pertaining to moral and cultural values. Yeah, the list of 48 is very long, but on the second point, there is not the rights pertaining to moral and cultural values. For example, yeah, the right to worship God according to one's conscience. This is the third point of Pacem in Terris, which is very different, you see, yeah, from the political declarations, because it's a declaration of the Church, because it's a declaration of human rights from the visual, yeah, from the viewing of a human being, yeah, in the Christian tradition, yeah, in his relationship to God. The fourth is the right to choose freely one's state in life. So after moral values, relationship to God, then there come the other rights. Yeah. So the social doctrine of church wants to tell us that all the rights that we can define, that we can affirm, that we can realize in the world, yeah, they refer to a relationship of human being, which is a very fundamental relationship with God, yeah, which is our religious dimension. That's why religion should and must to the reflection of human rights. Then we have on the fifth point economic rights, rights to emigrate and immigrate, political rights. All the other rights are reassumed in the next point, in these points of the Pacem in Terris. But it is also very interesting, and it is very significant that Pacem in Terris does not only define the right, underline and formulate the rights of human being, yeah, but also the duties, because the idea of sacredness of life, of human dignity in the Catholic social teaching tradition, it is not only contemplated as rights. It is contemplated as rights only if these rights correspond to duties. You know, yeah, there have to be rights and duties together to have the Christian vision of what is human rights and so what is human dignity in its political democratic realization. So the Parliamentary says in the point 29, I quote that, thus, for example, the right to live involves the duty to preserve one's life. Yeah? Politically, we only define the right to live. But the Christian tradition says, yeah, the right to live, that's right. Yeah. But the right to live is only abstract. It is not reality if there is not the correspondent duty to preserve one's life. Yeah? The right to a decent standing of living, yeah, corresponds to the duty to live in a becoming fashion, yeah, the right to a decent standard of living, yeah. We have that, yeah, but they have to correspond the duty. The right to be free, to seek out the truth, is the duty to devote oneself to an ever deeper and wider search for it, yeah. We have the liberty, we have the right, yeah, to be free to seek our truth. So we have the right of religious freedom, of freedom of opinion, yeah. But this right is concrete only if we feel and we realize the duty to search for truth, yeah. Then maybe the answers are diverse. Maybe not everyone finds the truth in Christian religion, yeah. But the duty to search for it, this is essential in a Christian way in order to affirm the right of religious freedom and freedom of opinion. Because otherwise, the right of religious freedom or freedom of opinion cannot give us, yeah, the possibility to live in indifferentism. Yeah. And this is also what we live towards the environment. That's what we live towards other people. Yeah, we fight for rights. Yeah, but in the quotidianity we live indifferentism. And this is the same thing that Habermas saw, and that is so interesting. That a non-Christian but a very secular thing, you know, like Habermas, saw that, yeah, that only rights without the corresponding duties, yeah, leads us to indifferentism, and this indifferentism does rewind, does in a certain way cancel the understanding on the long run on the same rights. Rights cannot survive on the long run if we don't formulate, yeah, the corresponding duties to them. So we have the reciprocity between rights and duties. And so it's interesting what it is formulating the Centesimus Annus 1991. In paragraph 47, we read this, and I quote that. Among the most important of these rights, mention must be made of the right of life, an integral part of which is the right of the child to develop in the mother's womb from the moment of conception, the right to live in a united family and in a moral environment conducive to the growth of the child's personality, the right to develop one's intelligence and freedom in seeking and knowing the truth, the right to share in the work with make wise use of the earth's material resources. You see that the duties, yeah, to respect material resources of nature, yeah, is formulated already in Centesimus Annus 1991. And to derive from that work the means to support oneself and one's dependents, and the right freely to establish a family, to have and to rear children through the responsible exercise of one's sexuality. In a certain sense, the source and synthesis of those rights is religious freedom, understood as the right to live in the truth of one's faith and in conformity with one's transcendent dignity as a person. This is a great summary of what is the thinking of rights in the tradition of Catholic social thought. Centesimus Annus, paragraph 47. Now in the last part, let us reflect how is the evolution of human rights and what social doctrine of church can contribute to it in order to discover new rights, the new rights that we need today, rights which include our relationship to nature and which include our relationship to artificial intelligence. And so now let's analyze very, very rapidly the historical evolution of the rights. The rights always changed, and the rights that we have today in the various charters, in the various formulations, are not exactly the same as in 1776 or in 1948. There is a continuous evolution, and this is normal because human being is concrete, human being is historical, and so human being finds itself only every time in a new situation and towards new challenges. New challenges let us discover new aspects of human dignity. We cannot define human dignity once for all. We cannot define human dignity in the medieval time in 1200 with Thomas Aquinas and say, that's it, once formulated for all times. Or with Kant in the 18th century, or with the Declaration of 1948 after the Second World War. Human being is in a continuous evolution, and so human rights evolve. This does not mean that human dignity it's becoming diverse. Human dignity is always the same, but the same human dignity in new contexts, towards new challenges, brings us to discovering new rights. Discovering new rights means that we get aware of the fact that the same human dignity is now in a new situation, and we have to reflect it in a new way. And this is the very convincing theme of also of social doctrine of the church. Otherwise it would be sufficient to have the Rerum Novarum, the first social encyclical of 1891, and then that's it. No, the tradition of social doctrine of the church goes on, and Laudato Si formulated dimensions which we do not find in Rerum Novarum, for example, or in other encyclicals. So the list of rights is changing with changing historical conditions, needs, interests, classes in power, means available for their implementation, technical transformations, and so on. So we can quote today 4 generations of human rights. The first 2 are quite known. They are really they are more easy. But the third and the fourth, it's a really new theme, and maybe it's surprising for someone to us. The first generation rights are the first part of the rights in 1948, which are the first 20 rights of the declarations of the United Nations in 1948. The classical liberal rights, the rights of the individual against the state, against political power, which defined in a negative way. Negative means that it defends the individual, from the power of the states. After the Second World War, the states who did the wars, who realized totalitarianism, who realized the suppression, the undermission of human beings to power, human beings have to be defended. Personal freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, freedom of communication, freedom of expression, freedom of meeting, freedom of association, freedom of political participation. These are the rights defined in the first generation, 1948. Then we have the second generation. The second generation was realized in 2 charters of 1966, which are the rights of political participation and of social rights. It is clear that the idea of social rights was first of all promoted by Russia, by the communist states, which said, now the free world has its liberal rights, we want the social rights. It was promoted by Russia. It was promoted by the Union, by the Soviet Union, of course, and all the communist states. It was promoted also by South Africa, and by Saudi Arabia and some Arabic states, which were in union with with the communist states, to pretend the social rights. And together with the social rights, we have the rights to political participation. This is the Charter of the Free World, of the Democratic World. So in the two charters of 1966, we have the two worlds, the democratic world, with the political participation, and the socialist world, with social rights. But they were affirmed of all, and 10 years later, maybe in 78 or 76 or 78, they became reality. They were indeed also formulated in the 48th declaration, in the last 10 rights, from 21 to 30, or 21 to 29, because 30 is only the final point of the declaration of 48, which has 30 articles. But since they were also only formulated in the last part, they did not become incisive, and they did not become a great reality worldwide. So there was a need to the two charters in 1966. So we have there the improvement of the citizens' living conditions, including the citizens' living conditions, work, economic, social, and cultural rights, work, education, health, housing. These are in a certain way the positive rights. So if you want, if you want to use also the three words of the French Revolution, liberté, égalité, fraternité. We have in 48 liberté, we have in 66 égalité. What is with fraternity? With fraternity, we can associate the third generation rights. For the third generation rights, we don't have a specific charter like 48 or 66. They are, in a certain way, the so-called new rights. And so humanity going on gets aware of the fact that we have to formulate new rights. These new rights are first of all recognized by constitutions. And now I will quote you also some constitutions of the world where we have the recognition of some of these third generation rights. So the third generation rights are already reality. They are not reality in international charters, but they are reality in some constitutions of states of the world. Which are these rights? Rights of solidarity that affect the community, heterogeneous and various categories. Rights to the environment, peace, development, self-determinations of people, natural resources, participation in cultural heritage, quality of life, conscious objections, or expressive of group of people. It is not contemplated by the 48 rights to give rights to groups of people, because rights are individual. The third generation rights are given also to groups like women, elderly, children, disabled, migrants. Some of the groups you mentioned also before in the chat. Intergenerational equality and sustainability is also part of the third generation rights. So the justice not only with the people present in the world today, but also with future generations. So it is included in a certain way already the saving of nature and of environment. And if you want, this is in a certain way the category of fraternité, of brotherhood, the humanity as a brotherhood. And I give you now some examples of constitutions of the world. In Japan, we have right to peace, for example, which is not contemplated in 48 or 66. What is the right of peace? And first of all, how can it be realized? You see, it is a heterogeneous group of rights. It is very difficult to define them and to concretize and to give concretization to them. In Spain, in Portugal, Switzerland, Brazil, Slovenia, we have a right to environmental protection, so rights to nature. In Portugal, we have third age rights. In Poland, we have rights of the child, for example. In Japan, we have right to the pursuit of happiness, like in the United States. In Spain, we have the consumer rights. In Japan, we have the rights of future generations. You see, these rights are in the part of the world already reality. And what is really interesting is that this idea of third generation rights, with its idea which does not come before the 90s maybe of the 20th century, were already taught by Populorum Progressio, which is the encyclical of Paul VI in 1967. This is very interesting. The Populorum Progressio was very, very innovative. The Populorum Progressio was very ahead of his time. The Populorum Progressio taught about topics which became topics of political discourse, something like 20 or 30 years later. So the Populorum Progressio recommends the strengthening of international collaboration with a worldwide vocation, which postulates the institutions that prepare, coordinate, and sustain it until it constitutes a universally recognized juridical order. So the idea of a justice which is worldwide. Paul VI said that development does not boil down to simple economic growth. We do not have to identify development with economic growth. Development is development of human being, is the integral development of human being, of all the people, of all the person and all the people. Yeah. To be authentic development, it must be integral, which means aimed at the promotion of every man and of the whole man. Yeah, this famous formulation. And this is also, you know, the Populorum Progressio was the great inspiration of Laudato Si, of Pope Francis. Laudato Si, which says in 144, there is a need to respect the rights of peoples and cultures, and to appreciate that the development of a social group presupposes an historical process which takes place within a cultural context and demands the constant and active involvement of local people from within their proper culture. Nor can the notion of the quality of life be imposed from outside, for quality of life must be understood within the world of symbols and customs proper to each human group. Yeah, you see the concreteness of human dignity, which comes also from a religious perspective. Now, I have to conclude. I know I'm already over the time. The fourth generation rights. Now we talk already of the fourth generation rights, and then that brings me to the new challenges which I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, because these are the rights which emerge from the reflection of the integration of human being in nature, in environment, and in the new technologies. Quindi we have the rights linked to the field of technological evolution, rights as a result of strengthening the dominance of technology over nature and as a safeguard against the dangers of technology. So the human rights in the global village. Yeah. There are also rights against genetic manipulation, rights to die with dignity. You know, it is not only environment and artificial intelligence. Yeah, we have here within also other new challenges: to die with dignity, against genetic manipulation, to confidentially against inclusions of universal computerization. Yeah, to privacy. Yeah, the rights to privacy against the institutions of universal computerization. Rights affect all reflections of the new communication technologies. No, I said. So in this discourse, the traditional state legislative instruments are not enough. Yeah, it is not enough to only repeat the rights we have, to repeat the state disposals and devices we have, and the possibilities we have now to defend human being. Yeah. To the new challenges from nature, from artificial intelligence, yeah, we have to have a new reflection. We need a new reflection. We need a new input also of Christian people, yeah, of Christian communities in the world to that discourse in order to find new rights. And that's what Pope Francis insists very much in, you know, and he searched for alliances to other religions even, yeah, to the Muslims, you know, and also to other religions, to have a new alliance on the worldwide level, which defend human beings in these new challenges. Yeah, this is the idea of Pope Francis. Pope Francis said states and states regulations and classical rights definitions are not enough anymore for the new challenges. And so religions do have their responsibilities. They do have their responsibilities. They do have to explain them. And they can explain them also if they find new alliances between also all the religions, in order to defend the dignity of life at all. Yeah. And this is going against the topic. I cannot explain it anymore, which we are talking very much, and this is very interesting in our Occidental culture of legal nihilism. Because rights do explain values. That's why rights are connected to duties. If we cancel the duties from the rights, we give to the state the possibility to define them. But then we are going towards a legal nihilism. And legal nihilism means that we can define right everything. It is enough to have a political consensus. But it is not enough to have a political consensus in order to define rights. Defining rights has to come from the concreteness of human being, of the human dignity. Without a comprehension of human dignity, we cannot define the rights. Nihilism says, we can define rights, with a political consensus. But this is not enough. And you know that, first of all, Ratzinger, Pope Benedict, insisted very, very much on that dimension. In Caritas in Veritate, his encyclical, he wrote that individual rights, when detached from a framework of duties which grants them their full meaning, can run wild, leading to an escalation of demands which is effectively unlimited and indiscriminate. So on the one hand, I said, it is normal and it is good that we discover new rights, because this means that we discover new aspects of human dignity. But this discovering of aspects of human dignity has also to be founded, to be based on a comprehension of what is human dignity. If it is not based anymore on this comprehension, and if only political consensus define rights, then we can define rights everything. And then we have this augmentation of demands. Then rights is that what people demand. No, rights is not that what people demand. Rights is a translation, an expression. It is a comprehension on what is human dignity, not on what people demand. If rights become that what people demand, through a political consensus, then they can run wild. They escalate. They become legal nihilism in a certain way. So Benedict says an overemphasis on rights leads to a disregard for duties. Duties set a limit on rights because they point to the anthropological and ethical framework of which rights are a part. In this way, ensuring that they do not become licensed. Duties thereby reinforce rights and call for their defense and promotion as a task to be undertaken in the service of common good. So only in this way, rights are common good. Rights has to be the common good of humanity. Rights has to represent the whole humanity. And this is the very, very beautiful definition of rights that gave us Kant in his Eternal Peace, his writing on Eternal Peace. He said that we realize humanity on its whole, if the violation of rights in one point of the earth is perceived in every other part of the world. This is the whole humanity. We perceive in every part of the world, when in one part of the world, and it can be also the other part of the world, human rights are violated. This is of course an ideal. This was an ideal also for Kant. This is an ideal for social doctrine of church. But we have to work for it. And the force to work for it does not come from abstract charters. It does not come from abstract definitions. It does come only from the concrete realization of faith, of Christian communities, of our engagement for this right. And this is why we have to contribute on the new discussion about what is rights in our relationship to nature on the one hand, and to artificial intelligence on the other. And here I have to stop because my time is over, and I hope I gave you some new insights, some new reflections on that, some motivations for it, as Habermas would say. And yeah, I cannot give you the solution, because the solution stands in our actions. The solution stands in our engagement. The solution lies, yeah, in what we do, in what we act. Yeah, the theoretical reflections has to stop in a certain way, and but then we are called. Then we are called, yeah, from God, from human mankind, yeah, to engage in all our possible ways, yeah, for a better realization of human dignity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Markus.
Thanks to you.
Okay. I would like to give a little link on what Professor Marcos said. No? So Professor Marcos is really a professor. Huh? Have you heard about talking about Habermas, Kant, Ratzinger before Pope Benedict became a Pope? Okay, thank you very much. So important points that I would like to give as a synthesis for his talk. And I hope I will not go out from his topic. In sociology, I think there is one word that would capture the topic of Marcus on the human dignity. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Father,
Okay.
you're clear.
The human dignity of the human person and also the rights and duty is about relationship, no? Relationship and human interaction. Because in sociology, you will never grow as a person if you will live alone, no? And you will never exercise your right and duties if you are living alone. So it is only in a relationship with others, with a community, that we will be able to realize our dignity, at the same time affirm the dignity of others, and also to exercise our rights and duty always in the context of community and with the other person. So just Marcos mentioned three important things about relationship, no? Interaction. It is not the anthropocentric idea of taking care of nature, that the human person is more important. But actually, the argument of anthropocentrism has been manipulated and exploited by some, because if if nature really served humanity, then we must be living in a good life. But if we look at in our world today, ecology and nature are exhausted, abused, and destroyed, but a good percentage of the human population suffered. No? If you try to look at it, no? The cry of nature is also the cry of the poor. So in the anthropocentric argument, we could say that it is not true that the human being benefited from the argument of anthropocentrism. But so, if you try to look at it, these are the people who have the power in the politics and economy who benefited from this. And this is not the entire humanity. They are using the argument of anthropocentrism in order to pursue and exploit nature in the name of capitalism, in the name of personal interest. And second, big data. This is thank you, Marcos. This is a very recent topic, no? Big data. Right now, we are discussing with the Zoom. We are entering into big data. Whether we like it or not, we are inside this big data. Even if you declare that you don't want to, in the Philippines right now, Marcos, we have this phenomenon of face up, face up. No? Man would like to change the face to become a woman become face, then my face now
Europe too. Europe too. It's the same thing.
yeah. So all these things are already projected. Can you imagine? This is not just a game, but you can be projected already. How do you look like? These are in artificial intelligence. So I would like to go back to Habermas, because the idea of public space for Habermas now is that even though I am sitting here in Mary Hill School of Theology, it is my public space. I am talking to the world. I don't have to go to the plaza. I don't have to go to the conference hall to gather public. That's why technology, artificial intelligence is very important, because it is affecting our public opinion, and it will affect democracy. Huh? So if our opinion are affected, then it will affect also on how we will decide for our political rights. So if you try to look at the worst part of being inside the big data is that they control what kind of information that we can receive. No? It is not it is we don't have anymore the right to see and what kind of information that we would like to read or to integrate within our system. But there are people behind who will feed us with informations that will serve their interests. That is the sad part of technology, because there are gatekeepers, the gatekeepers who will take care of information. So by that, we become very impersonal. At the same time, we are no longer free. We are controlled by big data and by big companies. And lastly, thank you very much for the evolution of the human rights. In the beginning, it was all about the protection against the government. Then the second, it is more on the positive right, insisting what we would like. And the third and the fourth generation of rights, it's all about the things that we are talking about now. The rights of nature, the right of peace, the right of my religion, and sometimes the right of gender, no? LGBTQ. These are all part of this the third and the fourth generations, because and there are also some challenges in this evolution of rights, because the point of departure is no longer the community, but sometimes it goes to a very personal insistence of what is right for the person. So it is an open discussion. This is still evolving. And thank you, Professor Markus. And I hope I give a little the synthesis, although it is a little bit long. And you can also ask your question after. If Professor Markus would like to add something, no problem. No questions also from the audience. Rusty, do you have something?
Okay, so some of the participants already sent the question. So I'd like to read the first question. Markus, this is the first question. What practical ways can you suggest for young people to promote the life and dignity of human persons? So I'd like to repeat the question, Markus. What practical ways can you suggest for young people to promote the life and dignity of human?
Yeah, that's also a big question. Because I think the young people has to be in a certain way educated. First of all, they have to be educated. Yeah, because human rights, they cannot become something like a dogmatic structure. Yeah, that we define it, and we define it, and we have no sensibility for it, you know. I think education for human rights, pedagogy of human rights, you know, has to talk to young people in a whole way, yeah. Not only teaching human rights, yeah, but sensibilization for human rights. To bring young people, to make them do experiences, yeah, experiences of what is human rights, yeah, and the positive experience, what it means to fight for human rights, what it means to sustain human rights, yeah, to connect the fight for human rights with positive connections, yeah, with the perspective of future. This is what we can do in a way of education. Then what young people can do, yeah, is the same thing, but also major people can do, and also what we all can do. I know that there is no specific way of acting for human people, for young people, than for older people. Maybe expect the way that young people can have a more incident witnessing, yeah, you know, maybe the witnessing human rights, which can do young people, is sometimes maybe is sometimes maybe more incisive, yeah, is sometimes maybe, you know, a little in a certain way what Greta Thunberg did, yeah, you know, Greta Thunberg is a young people, he's a young person, yeah, and and the establishment, the great enterprises said, oh, she's a silly woman, and what can she do, yeah, but this young girl, yeah, sensibilized the whole human mankind on the topic of saving nature and environment. Yeah, this is very significant because politics and social encyclicals, yeah, since many years they say, yeah, we have to safeguard nature. Yeah, Laudato Si in 2015, yeah, said we have to safeguard nature, but human mankind went along. Then it came Greta Thunberg, yeah, and we had manifestations in all of the world, yeah. Maybe sometimes, yeah, the voice of young people, not what, yeah, maybe it is more incisive and it is more in a certain way it is diverse. It comes maybe more to the conscience of other young people, because young people have the sense of what is future, you know. Maybe older people who have their career, yeah, who have their standing, who have worked for their life, and they say, yeah, now I have gained my life and I am here, and why should I change mind? Why should I change idea? You know, changing mind is not so easy. Yeah. And maybe it is also for that Jesus said, yeah, if you don't become like children, yeah, you cannot discover, yeah, the revolutional aspects of my message. Because the message of Jesus was revolutionary. It was revolutionary, not also in a political sense, but of course not only, because Jesus said, "Yeah, don't misunderstand me. I'm not a political revolutionary, but it is a revolutionary in a very deeper sense. It is revolutionary in our understanding of humanity, you know, and only if we all become a little bit like children, yeah, like revolution." Because if we see the future, yeah, then we can become witnessing human rights, and therefore I think the voice of young people is very important. The voice of young people, and we have this witnessing now from Greta Thunberg and all the manifestations in the world of that, you know. And I think also young people in Christian organizations, yeah, young people who work for that, maybe they don't become such famous like Greta Thunberg, yeah, but in their place where they act, where they are, yeah, they give a great testimony, great testimonials, and that's why I think that the engagement of young people is really, really important for human rights.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcus, for that explanation, especially talking about the global context of young people who try to engage themselves. I would like to add a little bit in the context of the Philippines. For example, in the Filipino people, the Philippine context, for example, we are an agricultural country, but with the influence of the Western world, it's so unfortunate, for example, people try to continue to go on with their lives, but they don't really know the sacrifices of some people. Just like to give an example that Philippines as an agricultural country to recognize the rights and the dignity of the farmers itself. It is not felt by the young people, no? Because they buy all these products in the department stores, well packed, well packaged, and they don't even know that it grows under the ground or it grows hanging in the tree, because they don't have this exposure and the process. For example, we are eating rice 24 hours a day, in the Philippines, but many of these young people doesn't see the value and the sacrifices of the farmers on how these products being cultivated. But through the exposure of these young people, I hope, and it is my hope, that they might have also the real experience, that they will know how are these things being produced, so that they may be able to value the sacrifices of these people who are very ordinary, but they are serving the national interest of the country. And to add another issue in the Philippines, for example, the war on drugs in the Philippines, and it is dividing the country. We could hear old and young people that they say that it is the right and the government is doing well to execute, to imprison, or to kill all these
Nice, nice.
people who are considered bad in the society in order to protect the interests or the lives of the people. But in this way, we try to preserve and we try to protect and preserve our lives, but with the consequence of killing those people whom we considered to be the bad. No? So we try to protect our lives, but at the same time we would like to kill. No? So this is the contradiction of the dignity of the human person, at the same time rights and dignity. As if there are people who have to be good, then they deserve to live, while those who are considered to be bad, they should be eliminated and died because they are the danger of the society. But we forget that most of these drug addicts are also victims of the social sinful structure of the society. Like in the Philippine context, if we try to look at in the statistics and in the data about these victims and those people involved in drugs, most of them, they belong to the poorest among the poor sector of the society. And these are victims. They don't have opportunity to study. They don't have the social imagination that one day I will go out from these quarters, this slum area, because I would like to study. I would like to have a better life. But it's so unfortunate that these are people who cannot even identify from their environment as a garbage, and they themselves they don't find it disturbing that they are living in the middle of the garbage because that is the natural world that they believe. So do the society, the church, it's a challenge for the church, that do we give them the opportunity to look at a wider perspective of the world, because they themselves are also victim of the social simple structure.